What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, your weekly show covering all the biggest topics in gaming with industry, technical, and legal insight. This is episode 240, and I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by these lovely gentlemen you see in front of you. The Seven himself, Mr. Rodriguez. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'd be doing all right if my stupid fan would work properly. It is not. So if you hear a buzzing sound, as usual, that's me. That's going to be Dan. So my bad. I have a laptop that probably has a small, tiny dust particle that is hitting my fan blades every time it goes around. And I can't get rid of it because I am technically dumb. So that's where I'm at. I got to just take it in. Have somebody clean it.
It's a good Sunday morning.
Yeah. No, and I got like a small headache, but it's mostly due to people, so and family. Otherwise, I'm ready to go. What are we talking about? I have no idea.
We're talking about some games today, along with our other host, who has just the loveliest fan base in all of the internet, I must say, Mr. Ty Guy Travis himself.
McClunky, hello everyone. Good morning to you all. Very exciting day to be a gamer and a reviewer. I mean that genuinely. It's great.
It's great. It's great. So today we've got a lot to talk about. We may have a wild Hoeg sighting, so stay tuned for that. As always, we are simulcasting this across the Season Gaming and HoegLaw channels. So if you can, if you are watching with us live, everyone in chat, good morning, good afternoon. If you are watching with us live, open up those tabs, watch both channels. It helps us out, obviously, as we've said. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch. So we've got game releases. We've got Travis's Destiny 2 Lightfall kind of review in progress now out in the wild. And alongside that, we're going to be introducing a new segment of the show today, which should be a lot of fun and at least give us some laughs. We're going to be talking a lot about Final Fantasy XVI and the previews that have come in for that. We've also got some more releases in March. We've got an update on the Xbox and Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Elden Ring has announced an expansion. So a lot to talk through today. Should be a good show. Everyone, good to see everyone. Trying to keep both tabs open. You know how I do here. Trying to keep up with everyone. I will do my best. And right out of the gate, before we even went live, Mr. Googleman is back with our first super chat of the day. Let's hit it.
Jeez, man, it's fast. All right, let's see. I'm almost out of Arizona green tea with honey, which tastes great with Takis Fuego, which I don't have. Video games. All right. I don't know why. Listen, I tried Takis actually for the first time like a couple of weeks ago, and they were like stale. That's what it felt like. And it was like a fresh bag. You know, I've had,
I legitimately don't know what Takis Fuego are.
It's like a it's like a snack food. It's kind of like, what are those?
It's like a chili lime kind of like.
They remind me of those. What are those things? The fugels, the things you wear in your fingers.
Bugles.
Bugles. Yeah, those things.
Oh,
I
like
don't
that.
know anything about snack foods. They kind of remind me of that, but they're basically just a snack food. But I had the same experience as Dan. I bought one curiously once, and I was like, "Yeah, this is real bad," and didn't get into it. So
yeah, like fire Cheetos fire or whatever those are better.
Okay,
myself,
all right.
But that's just me.
He would know. Trust him. Honestly, this is his area of expertise. I defer to Dan on this.
We ended on Burger Chat, and we start this week with Takis Fuego, apparently. So, Googleman, thank you for that. Our Burger Chat basically spawned a huge online debate again, too, about burgers, which was hilarious. By the way, Travis, a few people, including a good friend of mine, were talking about a place called Habit, which is a California burger chain that they said a lot of people said is really good. I have no idea.
It's okay. It's okay. Again, I just don't I don't believe there's any chain that actually makes good burgers. I don't think that's real. I don't
think that's real.
Go local. That's the best way to eat.
Yeah. That's how we ended.
Find a local joint that's super. They know what they're doing, and that's my philosophy.
Fair enough. Thank you, Googleman, for the super chat. Appreciate you. Also, shout out to Midnight Dreary, who gifted a channel membership over at SG. Thank you, and welcome to Virginia Tracy, a new channel member as well. And big shout out to, I'm trying to keep up here, Marianne Williams over on Hoeg's channel, who gifted 5 memberships to get us started today. Thank you very much. That's awesome. All right, guys. So today I think we'll start with what we've currently been playing. So I want to start briefly with HoegLaw, Fallen Dynasty.
Nice.
Which from Koei Tecmo, Team Ninja, it's being called kind of like a Sekiro competitor, kind of like a Soulsborne in ways. I'm still very early in it, so I can't speak to it too greatly, but I am enjoying it a lot. It feels like a Sekiro and Neo kind of mesh together to create a new type of Ninja Gaiden style game, and it's impressive. I like it. It's very smooth. It's got a lot of combat capabilities and abilities you can use, and it is challenging. So I'm waiting for Dan's review. Should be done any day. But yeah, I like it, and if it's on Game Pass, of course. So if you want to try it, give it a shot.
Did you say Dan's review?
Yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Our Dan? This one right here above me?
No.
Is he
Shout out
reviewing it really?
No, he is absolutely
I'm not
not.
even
No.
going to download it.
No, reviewing it for us is Eric, who plays a bunch of these games. So yeah, he's on it. He's already mostly through it. So our review should be up soon. Shout out to co-counsel in the chat. Good morning, Mrs. Hoeg. Good to see you. And wow, that was fast, sir. That was too fast. I wasn't prepared.
Uh-oh.
But we are back to our foursome.
Yay!
Yay, Mr.
There
Hoeg.
it goes.
Yeah, I gave you a warning this time, Ains.
Yes, he did.
You did give me a warning. I just didn't think it would be so early in the show, but I love it. I love it.
Sorry, I could have aimed it a little better. No, I knew it would be pretty early. I can't have you guys talking Final Fantasy without me.
No, absolutely
Ooh.
not. Especially with the information that came out this week,
Yeah.
which is more of what you ranted about last time. So I was very pleased to see it, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We signed a contract, I think, when you came on. There would be no show about Final Fantasy without Mr. Hoeg.
No doubt. How you doing, man?
I'm okay as these things go. So
Yeah.
I'll be hanging in there as long as I can, as we did last time. But
Sure.
I saw the summary and I knew I had to come on. Final Fantasy 16.
Indeed.
We've got Final Fantasy 16 and Xbox Activision Blizzard, which you did I already told you, but if you missed it, I don't think anyone here missed it. But your first video back officially, congrats on that. In my opinion, and I wasn't just saying this, I think you did a fantastic job. I think it just goes to show how good you are at these things, that you can come back from a stroke and still give me the best video on the situation of any that I've watched. So credit to you, man.
That is very nice of you to say. It took substantially more time than usual to make that video, so
Sure.
I wanted to get it done.
Good.
Yeah, I get
Well,
it.
I hope the PT is going well.
No doubt.
Hope it's going better than the PT demo.
PT is going great. OT, that's occupational therapy, is where the fun lives. That's getting this hand to do things, which you couldn't even see because I couldn't raise it high enough, but without
Oh,
ripping my microphone off.
Wow.
Gotcha.
I didn't even know
There
OT
you go.
was a thing. So
Oh yeah, it's physical therapy, occupational therapy. I also did speech therapy for a while, and then they also have recreational therapy.
Recreational therapy. Okay.
Yeah, that one sounds
that's
the most
4 types
fun.
of therapy.
Yeah, what's that one?
And then
There's a lot of
they put
different
you so
therapists.
much. And then they put you through so much of that, then you need just regular therapy to deal with all of the
So they call it neurotherapy, but yeah, I have a psychologist as well.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Wow, so regular therapy is called neurotherapy
In this world, yeah.
in this world. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. More you know.
Well, good to have you. Everyone obviously excited in the chat. So this is awesome. I always feel better when it's the four of us. It just feels right. You know what I mean? So big shout out to Chris Mullen, gifted 5 HoegLaw memberships over at Hoeg's channel. Big shout out to Amazing Meta, gifted 10 memberships over at HoegLaw.
Wow,
So
thanks.
thank you. Thank you. All right. So currently playing. So I was touching on Wolong. It doesn't sound like any of you have played it. What do you think so
Yep.
far?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same point as you, where I've only played like basically.
I've played like an hour. Like,
yeah, so I played like the beginning, and then I got through the part that was in the first demo, and I was like, oh, okay, this is sort of like it was before, except for now I have party members for some reason, which is kind of an interesting move. And then I basically got through the parts that a lot of us already played in the early demos.
Yeah, I'm still not up
So
to
far, so
playing
good.
action games yet, but I have observed Wolong
okay.
and Lightfall and Wild Hearts.
Oh, we're gonna have some fun with Lightfall. Is Wolong? I know you're not the biggest kind of Souls guy, Hoeg. Is Wolong one of those games that interests you at all? Or you're just kind of seeing what it's about.
I honestly, it's Game Pass, so I downloaded it, and my brother's in
Yeah.
town, and he wanted to play it, and the demo was strong, I thought, but no, it's more. That was the game this week. That was the most interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I would stick with it. Honestly, watching it, I feel like Three Kingdoms is maybe something I've seen a little too much of, but
I also kind of felt that a little bit. Like, I was pretty excited for this game. I did a lot of the previews for it for IGN, and then naturally Mitchell got the review. Yeah, I kind of also felt like, oh, I recently played Sekiro. It doesn't feel that long ago, and there was kind of like a little like, I'm not like in a rush to finish that game, certainly. So, see.
Okay. And you can't complain. You got the brilliance that is Lightfall that we're going to talk about. So we'll get to that shortly. Oh man. So what else you guys been playing then? Really all I've been playing is Wolong and PSVR2 stuff, which I can touch on again briefly. But anything else new?
pretty much Octopath and Beat Rhythm for me.
Nice. Octopath, you still enjoying the hell out of it?
Oh yeah, Octopath is great. It's exactly what you would have expected if you ordered a second Octopath. Now that's going to get under some people's skin, but I think it's great.
Okay.
I haven't played much more of Octopath 2 or Metroid Prime Remastered, which is too bad because I'm almost done with Prime Remastered. But yeah, aside from the game that I can't talk about until Tuesday, the IGN first game I'm going to be covering all month long, I basically just worked on the Destiny review. That was my week.
Gotcha.
You've got a March IGN first you're still not allowed to talk about on March 5th?
Yeah, so we wait until our first article for the month, and so March, the first 2 days happened last week during work days. So our first article for IGN First goes live on Tuesday, at which point I'll be able to.
For us to assume that every game you talk about on this show is not the first because you're talking about it?
If I'm talking about on this show, it's probably already out, so it definitely won't be IGN First. IGN First is for games that are coming out soonish, next 6 months or so, usually.
Nice. Well, at least we can talk about it next week then. That'll be good. So.
Yeah, it'll be a cool topic to talk about, and I have seen a ton of that game, so I will be able to tell you a lot about it. So,
fantastic.
Cool.
Dan, you still up in Like a Dragon?
Yeah. I kind of went back. I was still, I was confused on why I only had 23%. And so even after finishing it and probably spending close to 60 hours, and I was like, this is nuts. So I'm kind of going back through it and seeing what I missed, which I'm still confused about actually, but I'm still having a good time with it. I actually got my Xbox hooked up for the first time in literally a year, and resubbed the Game Pass, and because they gave it, I was gone for so long, they gave it to me for $1. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try now. And then that's when I got Atomic Heart last week, and then so I've been kind of going back and State of Decay 2, my favorite game on Xbox. I love it. Been playing a lot of that. Saw Wolong was on there. I was like, nah. So then I basically went back through the whole year and it's like, okay, what did I miss that I didn't buy, somewhere else? I can't remember what I get. I think Age of Empires 2, the new one that's on the console.
There's 2 remastered and 4 are both out on Xbox.
Well, I didn't even see the 4. I just got 2. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Still awesome. I wish somebody would redo the what was it, the Star Wars one, like something of the Empire or something. It was the Age
Empire
of
at War.
Empire at War, yeah. It was. They used the same engine, I think, and I love those games.
Empire at War.
Oh man, that was great. That's it, man. I haven't really. But you know what else I did? Hitman Absolution. I don't know if I said that last week, but yeah, totally went back and started playing that. Yeah, it's so good. So good. But
It's
and
an
all
old
also,
playing
goody
it,
goody.
yeah. And of course, the first thing I downloaded was Hitman 3 since it's on Game Pass. I was like, oh yeah, well, just to have there. And Deus Ex Mankind.
What's wrong with this guy?
Mankind Divided. That's what it was. I was like, you know what? I haven't played this in a while. Also awesome.
He
like
loves what he loves. Just like
Yeah,
you, Travis, love Destiny Lightfall.
Yeah. I'm just going backwards. It's fantastic. But you know what? MLB comes out here in a few weeks. So that will take a lot of my time.
Okay.
I'm excited about
Yeah,
it.
we've there's actually some cool releases coming this month. So I called out a few of them here. So we've got if you're into Dead Cells, you got the Castlevania crossover coming tomorrow, actually, March 6th.
Dead Cells is fantastic.
Yeah, so that looks really cool. You've got Dark Pictures is doing their VR horror game on PSVR March 16th. Obviously, for me and a lot of people, the big news is Diablo 4. Beta is March 17th and 19th if you've pre-ordered, and then the open beta is the 24th to 26th. And if you missed that, they detailed kind of what you can unlock in the full game if you get to level 20 in the beta, I think it is. So you can check that out. You've got, I don't know how to pronounce this. Someone can tell me. Is it Chia? How do you pronounce this properly?
It's just Chia, like Chia Pet.
Just Chia. Okay. Chia coming on March 21st. And then, of course, big release is Resident Evil 4 Remake on March 24th. And then, as Dan said, MLB The Show 23 on March 28th. So a lot of good stuff in March. Okay. Why don't we knock out these couple super chats? We've got emojis for you, Travis. Stacy does not let you get away from the emojis.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So let's get this started for today. Let's do it.
Emoji for Travis.
That is Ein Rot Balloon, decorative pine tree, possibly. Red apple, a raccoon, a face. Wow, that's kind of morbid. A face that appears to be melting, perhaps some sort of thermonuclear accident. I believe that. I believe that is Gene Simmons in face painting.
Pretty close.
Woman.
Young Kratos.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Atreus.
Yeah, maybe Atreus. Okay, that's a good one. This is an amorous woman stepping out of a bubble bath, and those are her footprints on the tile floor.
What makes her amorous, Mr. Tie Guy?
What's that?
We have amorous emojis. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. So I'm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you guys are looking at the ones that are on the screen right now. I'm looking in the chat, and it looks like maybe she's covered in bubbles of some kind, and she's got like a
I can't see anything.
A face. She's making like a face. I don't know. It reads amorous to me. And then I believe that is
she's kind of got a face.
So is that a black rectangle? What it? I see just black.
That means it didn't. That means it didn't come through properly.
Okay, and then pig snout.
Yep.
There we go.
And pig snout. Nailed it.
Another Travis special.
I'm good at this. I know about
you. Are.
Wow.
Stacy, thank you very much as always. Shout out to Sentient Dreamer. Yeah, Sentient Dreamer, the $5 super sticker. Thank you very much.
Oh, it was David Bowie. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good note.
Is it Starius?
Yes.
Yeah, with the 50 pounds. Welcome back. It's amazing to see your progress. I'm assuming she's talking to Hoeg.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It's definitely not me. Starius, thank you for the generous super chat.
Thank you.
Appreciate you supporting Hoeg's channel over there. We've got Sardanisms in the house.
With the $2 super chat. Hoeg, who's your MC? Mine is Ochet. Is that how you say that? Partitio. What does Gao mean? LOL.
So Gao is a Final Fantasy VI character that is very similar. In style to our Beast Lady Ochet.
It's been so long.
Okay. All right.
Shit.
Thank you, Sardanisms.
And the Heathers with the $1.99 super chat. Happy to see Hoeg live. This counts towards therapy. That's for sure. That's probably because, just to see what his tolerance level of us is and kind of get to that point.
Well, my therapist would be happy to know I did all my home exercises before the show. So
nice. Love to see it. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.
We know you're watching, Hoeg's therapist. Pay attention. You're perfect.
Yeah, and shout out to let's see. Okay, no, that's good. We got it. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, Final Fantasy 16. Let's go ahead and jump over to it. I know Hoeg will have some thoughts. So what I did here in our notes, guys, is there a lot of previews came out about Final Fantasy 16 this week, and I kind of went through. Big shout out to my friend Wesley LeBlanc over at Game Informer. He did a lot of coverage for the game, and so there's interviews, there's previews, there's kind of stuff on the combat system, the summons, the icon battle. So I kind of put some just notes about these things so we can talk through different aspects of the game. So the big thing, of course, I think with Final Fantasy 16 is the combat. I know we've touched on it before. If you're not aware, excuse me, if you're not aware, the director of the combat in this game is Ryota Suzuki, who did Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Devil May Cry 4, 5, and other games at Capcom. And so the combat is real-time action focused, which kind of took people aback when we first looked at Final Fantasy 16. So I got a quote here, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it. So because I feel like it could be a little controversial in the way we all look at this game. So producer Naoki Yoshida, they were asking him why it's real time and why they've moved away kind of almost permanently, not permanently, but for a long time now from turn-based. And
now,
he said,
if I can make a comment on the long
Of
time
course.
now stuff, because I saw this rolling around Twitter as well. It's like,
Mhm.
well, they haven't done a turn-based game in 10 years or whatever. They have released precisely one main numbered entry in the last decade.
it's true. It's
So
very true.
in franchise time, we are one game removed from turn-based strategy role-playing.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah. So Yoshida says his reasoning, or at least what he said, was creating a Final Fantasy, a numbered Final Fantasy, to your point, Hoeg, is rare, has become such an endeavor to the point where your development costs are upwards of $100 million just to create one game. And so to recoup that development cost, you need as many people playing your game as possible. While a lot of the older fans, you're looking at them, are used to what Final Fantasy had in the past, a lot of younger players have never played a Final Fantasy game. They grew up playing first-person shooters. They grew up playing games like Grand Theft Auto, where you basically press a button and something happens immediately.
That's what I want for my Final Fantasy. It worked really well with Dragon Age 2, if you might recall.
I love you, Hoeg. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because they say something a little later, which almost kind of contradicts this, if depending on how you look at it. But I don't know. I'm indifferent to this comment because I feel we talk about this a lot here, where the industry is so vast now, and there's so many different experiences that I feel like taking a franchise such as Final Fantasy and justifying a pretty big shift in the combat system because it's a long-running series and new players who might have not played a Final Fantasy before or more used to instant gratification or action seems strange to me. Now, Travis, you articulated well the other week around let developers make the game they want to make, and I fully agreed with you there, and I agree with it here. But it just seems like a weird justification to say we're trying to make this for as many players as possible, and that means making it very easy to access combat quickly because the younger people may not have played a turn-based game and are used to shooters or action games. That doesn't jive with me too well, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
You're on mute.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. If this is the game that they wanted to make legitimately, I think they probably should just say that. You know, like, hey, that's not the game we wanted to make. We don't want to make a turn-based game. Blah blah blah. Which I kind of think is maybe the real reason, and they were just sort of dodging this question. Is kind of the impression I got. You know, because I kind of think that there's two things. One, I think a turn-based game could work 100%. I think there's definitely a market for that. But I think that market would be smaller. And maybe it's a reality at Square Enix that Final Fantasy is, their flagship franchise and they need to sell it to as many people as possible. And so the economics of, well, if you make it turn-based, you immediately shrink your audience pretty significantly. I get that. I don't know if it's a good reason to make creative decisions, but balancing creative desires with the economic realities of running a business is sort of a pretty common video game industry problem. So yeah, I'm kind of with you, Ames. I don't really like the reason But if they want to make a game, I have no problem with a non-turn-based Final Fantasy game at all, as we've discussed at length. That's not my qualm with this. And I think that what they've shown looks pretty good. And, I was with some of my nerd friends yesterday talking about Final Fantasy 16, and they were like, yeah, that game looks awesome. I'm definitely going to buy it, blah, blah, blah. So it's clearly working. They're generating hype for people that don't have a sacred cow there in terms of what they expect from Final Fantasy, because they're just excited to play it. So
sure. It seems, to your point, it seems, at least what I've seen, is that the response to the previews has been very positive. There's a lot of good feedback. A couple of the articles I read from editors like Wes, who I mentioned, who got to play this and kind of check it out, have all been praising it. So it just, I don't know. Seems like a shift. And I know we talked about it months and months ago when they first showed the game. But getting to see more of it now is kind of a weird thing. And before Hoeg or Dan, you comment on this, there was another thing I wanted to call out that kind of demonstrates how action focused this is. So according to the preview, the game has a scoring system like Devil May Cry with letter grades and scoring and everything else that is always running in the background. They just don't show it to you. And there is an unlockable mode in the game called arcade mode, where you'll be able to replay the stages and turn this on so that you can actually see the score that you're getting and see what you're doing in the game. The reason, their justification for not showing this all times, is that they felt for new players of the game that if they were playing and they did a level and they got like a D, that it would be like a downer. It would be a negative kind of connotation that they would be giving players, like you didn't do very well. And they didn't want that to be the case. They wanted people to just play and get through the game as they wanted to get through, because it's an RPG. But they do want to have this mode for people who want to see and try to like kind of perfect their combat, I guess it is. So I think just having that system in the game to begin with shows definitively how action focused it is.
I'm of the camp that you don't really need to mess with the good thing. It's always worked. It's always. But at the same time, I was one of the biggest skeptics when Yakuza went from action to turn-based RPG. Until the day I played it, I was super skeptical, and I was really upset actually, because that was
actually where I remember you ranting on this show about that.
It drove me nuts that they were going to this direction. I was like, this is so dumb. But turns out it's one of the best ones, and whether or not it was gameplay or not, I guess is kind of the question. It worked, but it was still a Yakuza game in its kind of soul, right? So I think that's the challenge that this game is going to face, is that can it still be a Final Fantasy game, tell that fantastical story in this, with the really good deep characters, and then, but completely do a 180 on basically all the combat mechanics. I have no idea. Yakuza pulled it off. I could, at this point, I would give them the benefit of the doubt to an extent, but at the same time, I also, go to Final Fantasy games, and especially the older ones, for that turn-based combat, specifically for me. But the stories are also, a big part of it too. So if they can really. It's really going to come down to the balance, I think, between that gameplay and the storytelling. But we'll see if they can do it. But I understand both sides.
Well, I think the difference is RGG is a well-run studio and Square Enix is a tire farm.
That might be true.
Yeah. All right, Hoeg, thoughts?
Well, I'll be referring to the game as 16 now for the rest of the episode, but I obviously am not thrilled about anything that came out this week, including the kind of infighting and holier than thou kind of journalism that I saw very often about, it's just the old people that want the turn-based, and Final Fantasy doesn't mean anything. It can be whatever. We can make it a Tetris game. It's still Final Fantasy if we put Mog on it. Okay. This has a lot to remind of like the Star Trek and Star Wars conversations you've seen for the last few years, which is like, what makes these things? And to me, turn-based role-playing has always been a different game type than action. It's not just hey, we can hit a button and do something. It's that there's a lot more thought and strategy that goes into manipulating a party of characters and trying to figure out how to beat a bad guy than flipping around and magicking and doing that kind of stuff. Now, I think Square Enix can say, hey, we're gonna spend $200 million on this game or whatever because we're terrible at managing our money and we need to go 4-quadrant appeal. But I don't think that I have to listen to that and say, oh yeah, absolutely, you're right. You're terrible at managing your resources, so you got to go and make sure you hit every possible person. I'm of the belief that if you go and try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one, or at least less than you would have. And I think Final Fantasy and Square Enix to some extent exists because Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy players have given them the money to make these things at this point. So give them what they want. But hey, if other people are going to enjoy 16, go for it. I have a feeling that despite what Travis's nerd friends say, they might say it looks exciting to them, but they won't want to be buying it, or they won't wind up engaging with it in the way that Yoshi P and Square Enix want them to, because you get just the half-cooked version of both. It's not Devil May Cry. It's going to be less than that. And it's not Final Fantasy, at least as we know it. So I still look at Final Fantasy Remake and say, you guys solved it. That's an action menu turn-based thing, hybrid. So I don't know why you would ditch it so immediately, but obviously both games were in development at the same time. And Rebirth is still scheduled for this year, although I don't think anybody should be holding out for it.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think I know when we talked about this originally, Hoeg, I said similar things to you in that when I think of the Final Fantasies that I've enjoyed the most, and I always go back to the classic ones. I'm just biased that way, I guess. But they are party based, and you said it well of figuring out. It's almost like a game of chess in a good turn based system, right? Where you're figuring out how your party can do each subsequent action to overcome the challenge in front of you. And I feel personally,
Octopath right now, Octopath is tough in that you have to think through a lot of stuff all the time.
That's good.
But it's turn-based. It's not asking for Twitch skills, which is one of the reasons it's my game right now.
Yeah, and as someone, I mean, we talk about it a lot, right? I'm a competitive shooter player, and I play a lot of fast-moving competitive games. Like, I love that. But that's not what to your point, that's not what I go to Final Fantasy for. And I think that was kind of what I was alluding to when I said that the industry is so vast and there's so many different experiences. I don't necessarily like it when a certain game or franchise or series or anything like that feels like they have to acclimate to a broader audience by either dumbing down or simplifying or just trying to be all things to all people. I think you said that well too.
Well, that was very much press X to awesome or whatever as a quote. And if we really honest with ourselves, if you told me, hey, here's a quote, Rick, I'm not going to tell you who said it. I would have told you that was an Electronic Arts executive. It's like, we have to have 4-quadrant appeal for our games because that's the money we're putting in. Okay, great. But this also goes with some of the other stuff we saw in the articles about Final Fantasy XVI this week, which was there's a certain amount of what I've described as self-loathing, which is maybe a little too strong, but embarrassment that their empire is built on Japanese role-playing games and turn-based strategy and what Final Fantasy used to be, that is coming across in a lot of these quotes that we're going to be just as good as those Western guys with their action stuff. Like, well, to me, it's dance with the one that brung you. It's not. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. I'm just trying to say this is what you're good at. You are a JRPG company. In fact, you are a merger of the two main JRPG companies.
Some of the quite literally the greatest games of all time. I mean, they should never be ashamed of what they've accomplished or try to be anything else. Those games are celebrated for decades for a reason.
Well, they can try to be something else. I think.
Oh, they can.
Yeah, they shouldn't be ashamed of what they are and their legacy and that sort of stuff. But I get why a creative person would not want to be labeled as something and be expected. Get back in the pit. No, crawling out to go and explore something else creatively. And I want them to have the ability to do that. I don't have a sacred cow for the Final Fantasy series, but I do believe that Final Fantasy can be anything because we've seen that they've experimented with so many different types of Final Fantasy games, maybe less in the numbered series, but still there's a lot of different Final Fantasy experiences out there. And so long as it's something that they genuinely want to make and believe in, let things evolve. The
Which
last
is not what that
Banjo-Kazooie
says.
Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, and I think the quote that they made is interesting. It's an interesting point. I've also heard Japanese developers describe a problem like that in the past. Like, for some reason, I have this like memory of E3 when they first showed off Bloodborne, and the From Software team that was working on that game, they were describing their game, and then somebody else described it as a JRPG, and they were sort of like, I mean, yeah, I guess.
And I just Japan, but
yeah,
and
it's
JRPG has never, and this is a conversation I've also been having online. JRPG to me has never been an indication of country of origin. It's a series of design decisions that go into making your game. That it's set characters experiencing a relatively linear story.
Yeah, I think in Japan they don't have that same definition, because when I was talking to people from software, they were like, yeah, I mean, we are a JRPG. When people were asking them about it, that was like they sort of just accepted that, and it had nothing to do with the format of the game, obviously, because it was Bloodborne. And so I think maybe we're talking about two separate things: the Western kind of impression of what makes a JRPG versus them saying it is just a label that gets slapped onto their games, even though they don't really see themselves as being any different. Overall. So I think there's definitely an interesting conversation there that I don't feel at all qualified to talk about, because I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to tell him he's wrong in how he feels. If he feels that's a derogatory term, hey, that's how you feel. Yeah. But it's never, ever, ever been derogatory to me. Obviously, I prefer the JRPG format to the Western RPG format.
Yeah. I think the people who prefer it, they think of it as a very specific thing, but it is certainly true that people online say, oh, I hate that JRPG crap, right? Like they see JRPG as a category to be disliked as well. I mean, you see that sentiment a lot online. So
to me, shorthand is useful in talking about things, right? If you look at the board game side of things, if you play board games at all, there are two prominent kind of genres of design decisions in Euro board games and Ameritrash board games. And obviously Ameritrash as a concept, a little bit more directly derogatory, but it's not really intended that way. I play a ton of Ameritrash games, and I enjoy a lot of them that I wouldn't obviously not call trash, but those are shorthands. A Euro board game is going to have systems and not be so much caring about the lore or the reasoning behind those systems and collecting points. An Ameritrash game is likely to have 16 decks that are all representative of elements of the game in order to tell a story, for instance, or to create a setting. But those are useful to say, hey, well, what kind of games do you like? And to me, that's what JRPG is.
I agree.
If I was creating a game, if I was a creative type, I wouldn't want to be put in either of those boxes, right? I would just
you don't want to be put in a box at all, really.
Yeah,
right?
I would want to be a game with my own merits, and I get why it's useful for players. But if I were a creator, for sure, I would find labels probably a little constricting and not like them. And I think Final Fantasy has been around long enough where they deserve to make their own game. I mean, the game that they want to make, even if it doesn't kind of conform with what people want. Dude, the last Banjo-Kazooie game was a racing game. You know what I mean? Like,
games. How did it do, Travis?
Hey,
and it's good. And it's good.
It's buggy as hell.
I like that game a lot.
It's conceptually good.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's not a good Banjo game.
I disagree. It's funny. It's got the same comedy, the humor as Banjo. I like that. I honestly think that game's underrated. But anyway, my point is you should be okay with them experimenting, and I get why people have sacred cows. But
I'll take it. But hey, as a question, Travis, is Banjo-Kazooie that car game? Does it have a number associated with it?
It does not.
It does not, does it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, neither did the sequel.
Banjo-Kazooie 2?
Banjo-Tooie, as it was called. Technically not a number.
That's a 2.
Well, there's a gray area here legally, Mr. Hoeg. I think we can.
I don't think law.
we have plausible deniability here on the 2. I think.
I'm just saying, if you want to call it Final Fantasy nuts and bolts, I'm all for it. Go nuts.
Stranger of Paradise, right?
You heard me say on this show that I enjoyed Stranger of Paradise for what it was, and it's broken as heck.
Yeah.
But it didn't try to call itself Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and by the way, just on the JRPG thing,
that's a good point. Somebody in comments said Final Fantasy 14. That's numbered. That's an MMO. That's
11 and 14 are very interesting members of the numbers, but I wouldn't have done that. And I think
it's your problem with the okay, interesting.
Well,
But
I think anybody that talks about Final Fantasy as a series of single-player role-playing games skips 11 and 14 in terms of the analysis.
Yeah,
What
that's
about
what I was just
15,
going to
though?
say.
15's
Those aren't
also not
included.
Turn-based. It doesn't follow a lot of the.
15's a mess. 15 is Square Enix at full tire fire mode.
Some people like that game. I thought it was okay.
It should be, but it's not what we would consider a traditional Final Fantasy. I don't get any of those vibes from it.
I actually didn't play it for that reason, Travis. I didn't play it, Final Fantasy 15, because it just completely turned me off.
It just doesn't give those vibes. And then you hear some of the questions in these interviews with Yoshi, and it's, a lot of Final Fantasies have a lot of emotionality and kind of the operatic elements. Do you have that in your game? And he's like, nah, we can't write that stuff. Okay, great. Happy you're in charge.
I
missed Hoeg.
All I'm saying is that if 11 and 14 and then to a lesser extent 15 have precedent for a numbered Final Fantasy game not being what you guys are talking about, I think we're probably well past the point where that was and you guys can obviously be upset about that, but whatever. It's Final Fantasy. More than half of them aren't good anyway. I still maintain that.
At Hoeg's face. By the way, on the JRPG front, I just want to say I use it like Hoeg. I've said on the show that I don't like JRPGs as much nowadays, and that has nothing to do with their country of origin, right? To Travis or to Hoeg's point, it's just the types of games and design and voiceovers and music and certain aspects of this.
Exactly. So isn't that exactly why they would want to break away from that label? Because people have preconceived notions about what a JRPG is, and so if they get labeled that, they're sort of in a box.
That's
I don't
fine.
care what it's called. I just think that they seem embarrassed by the design sensibilities that built their company.
Yeah, that, and I was just going to simply say, then show me something different, and we'll go from there.
They're doing that. They're doing that. You can say a lot of things, but they're not doing that, Ains, right?
Well, in the combat sense.
I said toward the end of last year that I've been enjoying Chained Echoes. That's great. That's one of my favorite JRPGs of the last decade, and I have no idea where it was made. Presumably not Japan.
Fair enough. One more comment on Final Fantasy 16, which I wanted to call out because this is what, compared to 15, like you just brought up, Travis, this is what has interested me in the game, is returning to the fantasy roots of the franchise. So a couple quotes here from director Hiroshi Takai, which says, when the project started, I was one of the first people that Yoshida came to and said, okay, we have this project, Final Fantasy 16. Will you be director? Takai accepts to direct. And he said that one of their orders was to focus on the summons in the game. So where the summons could not only be obviously included in the game, but where summons could actually fight each other, which are the icon versus icon battles that they've talked about. So they said that this is where I find it almost contradictory with what they said previously, but kind of funny at the same time. They said we wanted to create a story and a narrative that resonated with the older fans that have been around for a long time. But our third point was that we wanted to bring in more people into the series than just the standard fans and the standard RPG fans. And to do that, we turned it into an action game, believing that would be able to get us the audience we haven't tried before.
That's almost the exact same thing they said about 15.
That's
almost
true.
To the word.
Yeah.
So they're saying story for old people, gameplay for young people.
And to Hoeg's point, they're trying to be all things to all people.
I mean, I get the strategy. See, that's the part that bothers me, because I don't know if this is a situation of like, let the devs do what they want creatively. This seems like it's overly what do you call it? Focus group tested. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to hit all of the different buying groups.
Yeah, they got 8 opinions. They're like, all right, how do we fit all 8 into our game?
Yeah, it strikes me as like, the corporate part of Square Enix is sort of running the show on this game because it's such a big title, and that I feel like is a recipe for disaster. If it were coming from creative people saying, here's why we are super excited about these decisions creatively, I would be 100% defending them and being like, hey, screw you guys, let them do their thing. But this sort of strikes me as like corporate speak and not really the reasons you want to hear from a developer or why they made the decisions they
But this one has a doggo, Travis. A doggo.
Lots of games got doggos that aren't good.
No, but I mean, this is the level of coverage we've been getting this week. There's a dog in Final Fantasy. Fantastic. Love it.
Well, people love that facts.
You see those?
about
Yeah,
games.
that's literally an SEO article. Is people love learning that games have dogs you can pet. Take it as you will.
I'm producing an article that is basically to that effect for an upcoming
Final
game.
Fantasy
So.
as a doggo. All right, I didn't mean to call you out, Travis.
No, I mean, I'm not saying call it out. I'm just saying that is something people care about, and if people care about it, and you're running an outlet, you should write about it because people, that's your job.
I get that.
So, yeah.
What's the last thing on this is these icon versus icon battles. I thought this quote was interesting. So Yoshida says that icon versus icon battles are each independent and each one is unique. They are cinematic fights, whereas there's one that feels like a kaiju fight. Yoshida says that Evangelion, Godzilla, Ultraman all inspire these battles. One is like a battle with a phoenix is more like a 3D shooter, while another will be a Titan icon that will be more about high-speed action. So it feels like games within games, if you will. So we'll see how they deliver these.
I don't know. They got like hit point boss bars on the top, like a fighting game, right? So
Yep.
it's fine.
Yep.
This is definitely not what I go to Final Fantasy for, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. For me, like when they first showed it and they showed it returning to like the kingdoms and the castles and you see the chocobo and the fantasy like we talked about, I got really excited. I'm like, good, Final Fantasy's finally going back to the stuff I love about it. But the more they talk about this other stuff that we've been discussing, the less excited I get. So I don't really know where this one's going to land for me. I am going to play it, unlike 15, but we'll see for sure. So.
What's funny about your love of the fantasy stuff, Ains, is that the height of Final Fantasy as a popularity is when they made it like a steampunk fantasy.
Which killed it for me.
In 4 and 6.
Yeah. No, 4 and 6 I love. When they went...
6 is steampunk as all heck.
That's true, I guess, yeah. When they went kind of futuristic in 7, I'm one of those weirdos that really doesn't like 7 that much, but it is what it is. Like, I like 9 when they went back, but...
That's funny.
Anyway.
9 seems so cloying to me. We've talked about this.
Yes, we have.
Trying to appeal to people with a little guy dressed as a black mage, etc., etc.
All right. Let's knock out some of the... Anything else on Final Fantasy, guys? Okay.
No, I mean, there was a major shakeup that we saw kind of leaked / announced about the head of Square Enix being removed, which is pretty rare in these circumstances.
Yep. Yeah, I didn't touch on that.
So, I mean, like, Luminous was just an absolute... I keep saying tire fire, but Luminous, the engine that they built to make Final Fantasy 15, that they poured huge amounts of money in, that never really had output that I thought was terribly impressive. They spun off a company to make games with, just absolutely died with Forspoken. So they closed down Luminous Productions, and the guy responsible for a lot of these decisions has been shown the door.
Yep. Yeah, I don't really have too much
in business, I feel. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
I don't really have anything to add. I mean, you nailed the facts. We'll see. Square Enix, we've said our piece, I think, about Square Enix quite a bit on this show. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, Final Fantasy, just given the numbered entry, seems like it's going to be hugely successful just based on being Final Fantasy 16. But it's going to be interesting to see how it delivers, how it lands, what people genuinely think about it. So, and what it does for Square Enix. So, all right, let's catch up on Super Chats, and then we're going to get to Travis's Destiny 2 Lightfall review and the new segment that we're debuting this week, which should be rather funny. All right, Dan, you good over there?
I'm ready to go. Yeah, just a little bit of stupid stuff happening around my house.
Yeah, you have background noise again.
Yeah, that's a stupid fan. Like I said, yeah,
all right.
Technically done. All right, Gamer Ducko with the 15 something. Is that?
I think that's crypto. 15 crypto.
All right. I don't want to hear about 16 until I play it, but Hoeg is on, so here I am. All right.
There you go, Ducko. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Angela Richter with the $10 super chat. So glad to see Rick back. Thank your family for sharing you with us. Yeah.
That's a great sentence.
Yeah.
Thank your family for sharing you with us.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Angela. Thank you.
And Midnight Yell with a $10 super chat. Welcome back, Rick. Travis?
Question mark.
I don't know what that is. I mean, is that
No,
a
it's a
emoticon?
question mark, and then it's a colon, and then they're asking.
No, I
heart.
yes. All right, VR. But am not a gamer. I haven't played since OG Nintendo and Atari, so I'm old. Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Where should I start with VR games? I don't like shooter games.
Interesting.
Moss is a great starter VR
Correct.
game where you guide a mouse around and you get to hang out with a mouse.
Moss is
Cannot
good.
recommend it enough.
Beat Saber is the obvious recommendation, I would say.
Beat Saber's great if you want to work out. I beat Saber most days, as I know Ains does as well.
I do.
Great.
I've switched to pistol whip now, though.
Oh wow, impressive.
Yeah,
but she doesn't like pistol whip. She's anti-gun. Okay, favorite song is Snoop Dogg's "No Guns Allowed." Or Snoop Lion, actually. He was Snoop Lion at the time of that publishing.
I had no idea what's happening.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So leave it to the young people who grew up in Oakland in the night. What's that?
Wasn't it Snoop Leone?
No, he was Snoop Lion. He saw a spiritual guide who told him that his spirit energy was more like a lion than a dog, so he changed to Snoop Lion, and then he came out with an entire album of Rasta music, and then he realized that was insane, and then he went back to rapping as Snoop Dogg. So calm down, Dan. Jeez.
I'm just making sure you're pronouncing it correctly.
Sure. Okay.
It says Snoop Leone. He went French while we were at it. I recommend definitely what these guys said. Moss Book 1, Book 2 are fantastic. I'm actually playing Moss again right now, and Beat Saber is a classic.
I Expect You to Die. Is that available? I don't know.
I Expect You to Die.
You're playing on.
Yeah, it's on. I think 1 and 2 are on PS VR2. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I still got more to check out, but yeah, I wrote an article on Pistol Whip this week because I'm loving it so much.
Stop talking about Pistol Whip. She doesn't like guns. Come on.
Damn it. It's still good. Play it. All right, moving on. Thank you, Midnight Yell.
And Angela Bernhardt, friend of Hoeg, $4.99 super chat, sending love and support. Buy yourself a post PT tea on me.
Man lifting dumbbell, a boba tea in a heart that is growing 3 sizes this day.
That is not a dumbbell, my friend. That is a barbell. Know your weights, bro. Come on.
That's like the one thing. Come on. Not the one thing I don't know. That's one of many things I don't know. Do I look like a guy who goes to the gym to you? Ever? I can safely say I've never been into a gym on my free will.
All righty. Random name, $4.99 super chat. Welcome back. I know we're talking about Final Fantasy XVI, but how do you feel about the recent info about Square CEO being replaced? Wow, because of low game sales.
Took too long.
Random name was ahead of the curve on that one. He came in before we started talking about it, but yeah, I think we've kind of already touched on that by accident. But I like Hoeg's commentary. I think we've talked about Square Enix a lot on this show, and they've just for someone like me who grew up in the era of Squaresoft, right before they merged, those games and the generation there are legendary. Like between the kind of Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1, quite literally some of the greatest games ever made for years and years on end. And so to see where Square Enix is today and the games that they generally produce has been a massive disappointment for me personally. But that's just how I feel about it. So,
who knew that Forspoken would have such a massive effect?
Good Lord. Thank you, random name. Chelsea Nagy. Dan, you're on mute.
But
we love you.
Again, I'm muted. Okay, happy to see all 4 corners filled. So are we. I'm usually replay crew, but happy to catch a live. So disappointed with the lean into action-focused combat. The comments from Naoki were a total cop-out, especially when Final Fantasy VII remake exists. That's a fair point.
Yeah, I think we kind of said very similar and through our conversation. Oops, sorry about that. But yeah, it's at this point it is TBD on how good Final Fantasy 16 is to me. We will see. Chelsea, thank you for the very generous super chat. Appreciate that greatly. Brentwood Chick back.
Brentwood Chick, great to see you, Hoeg. Thanks for doing this, guys.
Heart.
Heart. Thank you.
Brentwood Chick was generous enough to do a super chat over at Hoeg's channel and a super chat over at SG channel as well.
That is very nice.
Yeah, that's very nice. Is watching both channels at the same time considered crossing streams?
Yeah, but in a good way at the end of the movie.
Smiling through the pain emoji.
Smiling through the pain.
No,
That's what it looks like to me. It looks like they're grinning, but behind their eyes lies darkness, unspoken. That's what it looks like to me.
I see it like a lottery winner emoji. Wow.
Yeah, I swear. So sometimes for everyone watching or listening, the emojis look different depending on the screen you're looking at. So
yeah, it's true.
It's interesting. Brentwood Chick, thank you for your generosity. Appreciate you.
I think
Painful
Travis
discourse
just sees pain in more pictures than I do. I don't know.
No, it's true. All the emojis are super personal to me. It'll be like a guy like frowning, and I'll be like, my relationship with my father, and people are like, what? That's not what that emoji is. I'm like, it is to me. So, yeah.
All right. Painful discourse. What did we decide this was?
We just decided
Polish.
No, well,
Plain
Plinkos, 10 Plinkos.
yeah, Polish. That's right.
shekel. Square Enix wants bigger player base. Why not go multiplat?
I can tell you why.
Oh God.
Well, you can't just say that and then go quiet.
No, I was sure. I wasn't sure if other people were going to speak up. Yeah, it's pretty easy because if you agree to be exclusive on somebody's platform, you get paid guaranteed and up front.
They're just trying to cut down their costs. They're run by accountants right now.
Yeah, and it might eventually come to other consoles. We don't really know what the exact terms are there. So, also they do sell primarily to Japanese customers, and also just PlayStation is their bread and butter. The people who own that platform tend to like the types of games that Square makes, so they're playing to their base.
Thank you, Painful Discourse. Classy One, I'll just grab it, Dan, with the $4.99 super sticker. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Gecko Gamer, back in the house.
Gecko, question for Hoeg. How goes gaming? Also great to see Hoeg back. Yeah.
We've advanced from can't game at all to can game for shorter periods of time than I would like. Playing turn-based games, but even walking around Octopath still takes a while. So we're getting there. But everything about rehab is slow. Even though people tell me I'm moving very fast, it still takes forever.
I can imagine. Gecko, thank you. Midnight Yell, back.
Back. I'm not anti-gun. I'm very Texan. I'm against shooting people for fun.
Rolling laughing emoji. If you're against shooting people for fun, how Texan are you? Really? That would be my.
Travis can't help the shade from San Francisco.
True. So.
Yep.
Hey, I said that with love.
It's actually required by law if you live in California. You have to throw shade at Texas, just like you do at California if you're in Texas.
I recently
Travis,
went to Texas.
Rolling laughing emoji is exactly how I would have said that. So you nailed it.
Hey. There we go.
Oh.
So some of them, I'm gonna have to find a new way to do it to make it less acceptable to you.
All right, thank you, Midnight Yell. Appreciate it.
All right, Aramaic LBT 499 super chat. Is that how you say that?
Yep.
All right. Really getting my JRPG fix from Octopath 2, and really looking forward to was that Ayuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. That's a long title. Later this year.
Suikoden spiritual successor.
Yeah, it's on the kind of prequel to that's the full game, that one, but the kind of little prequel to it was on Game Pass. You can try that out, but it got generally really positive kind of previews. So
yeah, that's Eden Chronicles Rising, I think. Yeah, it's very
right.
good.
That's it. Yep. Thank you, Arameric.
Grace J with the $5 super chat. Never played any of the games. What is Final Fantasy?
I tell you to ask Square Enix, but they don't know.
A duo of invaders in your space.
Yeah. So.
Final Fantasy is a JRPG series that has been around since when was the first one? 87?
Final Fantasy 1 is like 88. Yeah.
88 around there, because Phantasy Star
Before
1
I
was
was born. Significantly.
Yeah, very long running series of games, very beloved by millions of people. Everyone has debates about which one is their favorite, but they can
everybody
be.
Finishes with 6.
You should generally finish with 6. Yeah, correct.
Travis, that's not an argument. Why would you not like 6?
6 is fine. It's not my favorite.
6 is fine.
6 is fine.
This guy. All right, we'll move on before we get started into that. Grace, thank you.
All right. LMNOPO 99 Super Chat. The vocal minority say MS requesting third-party agreement documents from 2019 to now would give them nothing. Is there something?
Well, obviously, I'm not in the internal document structure at Sony, but it would surprise the heck out of me if they don't have any content licensing agreements for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, we're literally talking about Final Fantasy XVI as we speak. So, yeah, we're going to get to a little more here of the kind of updated. We'll let Hoeg kind of dive into the summary of his latest video as well, LMNPO. So thank you. We'll touch more on that here shortly. And lastly, let's put Travis on the spot again before we introduce the new segment for Travis.
What's up?
Perfect.
Go.
All right.
Oh, no.
Dog, Travis.
I don't know dogs.
All those dogs.
Okay, this is dog with a body, dog with a job helping blind people, dog with a job knowing drugs, dog face, poodle, wolf, fox, not many, and then I'm going to go with I'm not mad, I'm disappointed emoji.
Looks to me
enough.
like that gymnast that was unhappy about her finish. Smirk.
Oh, yeah. Stacy, thank you very much. Okay.
Oh, that is a good. That is pretty apt, Hoeg. I'll give you that.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk briefly about your review is out, or review in progress, to be fair.
Review in progress. Yes.
Destiny 2 Lightfall. Travis, you talked last week, and you've kind of educated this panel and some of our listeners on Lightfall in general. So your review is out in progress. You gave it a 5 so far, waiting on the raid. So today we want to introduce a new segment, thanks to Dan with his brilliant idea, titled Travis's Fan Mail. And we'll probably run this here and there going in the future as Travis does high-profile reviews, and IGN obviously getting millions and millions of views on Travis's views on his reviews. It leads to some very interesting comments, as you might imagine, both on YouTube, on Twitter, and everything else. So I'm going to read through some of these that Dan pulled out about the love.
Real quick, like this, like Travis review day drops are my favorite days of like the year. It's just so much joy. The amount of joy that I get out of just watching people that probably have never played the game, probably will never play the game, just see it, know it's from not just Travis but IGN more specifically, and then even and he's getting so big that they're like, oh yeah, this is Travis. So yeah, you know what to expect. And just reading like the quote tweets and the replies and just everything, I can't get enough. And it's usually like, you know, as soon as it drops, it's like, oh, the rest of my day is good. Like, I ignore the rest of Twitter, and so I just scour the comment section. You know what I haven't done a ton of is get on YouTube and look at them. That's what I need to do.
You need to do that next.
The worst menu. That's probably the worst one.
Fantastic. Love it.
Yeah, these are all from Twitter, so this is our first run at this. But Travis, let's talk through some of these, and we'll allow you to respond if you care.
You want me to respond to them? Okay, very well.
Yeah, come on, you know it's fine. So this is done by Travis Northup, who might be the most smug Destiny player of all time.
Ains, can I make a proposal?
Oh, of course you can.
I think Travis should read his mail.
That is probably the better idea. Yes.
You would need to put it on screen. Is there a way to do that?
I cannot do that quickly.
Well, you can put it in the comments, maybe.
No, they're in the Twitter DM, Travis.
Yeah, they're in our DM.
Oh, okay. So is that all? It's just the stuff you posted on Twitter?
Yeah, there's like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah,
all right. I will get that up in the future. You know, my feedback for the segment is if you're going to humiliate me, at least give me visual aid. So yeah, I would prefer that.
We know you're not humiliated. We know you're smug.
I don't care. Yeah. Okay. So for the first one, this is coming from Travis Northup, who might be the most smug Destiny player of all time. I actually don't really have a rebuttal for this one. That's probably true. I'm pretty smug. I'm a smug guy. And I'm smug for a reason. I've been around Destiny for a really long time. I know people at Bungie and have had relationships with that studio for a really long time. And I have a benefit that most Destiny players don't have, which is I have played other video games since Destiny came out. So I have a smug sense of superiority, because I know that there are games out there that are better than Destiny, and the community by and large does not. So there you go. Fair point. Whoever wrote that. Do we have names here? No, but whoever it is, fair point. This one says, this community is by far the worst to be a part of. That I'm going to disagree with. So the Destiny community is actually surprisingly positive. They have a problem where if their game is bad, if there's a problem with their game, they have a really big problem where any negativity around it is seen as toxicity, and they dogpile on anybody who says anything, who dares speak out against their game, which I hate. But I will give it to Destiny players. Most of the people... It is, of course, toxic. Yeah, it's toxic to hop on top of people. But the reason I'm saying that is because in this particular case, I would honestly say it was about 50-50. 50% of the people that reached out or commented, or they sent me a DM or whatever, were like, "Hey, I was super disappointed in Lightfall. Thank you for being honest about it, even though you're going to get flack." And the other half were like, "F you. How dare you speak up about Destiny?" But I would say most other communities I've been a part of, it's more like 90%. It's like 90% of the people are just like, kill yourself messages. So I think Destiny's pretty good. They're maybe not the best in the world, but honestly, I would put them in the upper tier of communities that I've actually engaged with. So I disagree with that. Next one. They must have given the Lightfall review to a bona fide Destiny hater, LMAO. I kind of think you don't even both. I don't know what to. I mean, I've played Destiny probably more than the guy who made that comment, I would wager. I wouldn't call it a hater, but I do have a love-hate relationship with Destiny. I think every Destiny player has a love-hate relationship with Destiny, frankly, and I am pretty representative of both sides of the community. I've praised Destiny when it's good, and I've gotten on it when it's bad, and unfortunately in this case it released a not great expansion. IGN, the gamers that don't actually play games, show me your gamer score, dude. Show me your played hours on games. I think I probably have played more games than you, and it's probably not even particularly close, but you do you. Travis continues to be an idiot. Fair. I don't have. It might not even relate to
the Lightfall review.
Yeah, it might not be relate to the Lightfall review. I think, look, I may in fact be an idiot, but I will not consider myself in trouble until I'm going on Twitter and calling people idiots. So I don't know. Look in the mirror, maybe. Okay. More evidence that IGN review scores have always been worthless as a measurement for showing the quality of literally anything. I mean that's an opinion you can have. I view myself as your peer. And therefore, if you have a peer, a fellow gamer with, no stock in Microsoft or PlayStation or whatever, playing a game and giving an opinion, I would hope that you'd listen to your peers, but you don't have to. You certainly don't have to listen to me. So I have no problem with that comment. You do you. Go off. And then this one is a meme image that shows the cover art for Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy, with pull quotes from my review that are not positive, and then the headline is that I gave it a 9 out of 10. Those quotes include: may not be the most impressive technical achievement, not particularly profound or original, you'll be painfully disappointed, fairly glitchy, cursed with got cut off, dicey performance, suffered from just about every issue, and lackluster. Those are all words that appear in my review. However, they are devoid of context. They not particularly profound or original, refers to the story, not the game as a whole. So you definitely edited there in a scummy way. Ironically, this is coming from somebody who probably holds the view that IGN is scummy, and I cannot think of anything more scummy than pull quotes out of a review with the intent of misleading the person who sees this image. So, I mean, again, not holding yourself to the standard that you would like IGN to be held to, but yeah, I mean, I talked about this when the review came out, but you can absolutely have numerous qualms with a game while still describing it as amazing. And I would describe Hogwarts Legacy as a pretty amazing game, despite all of the quotes that you posted there. So I have no problem with 8 to 10. I don't know how many you have here. Negative words in a review that scores a game 9 out of 10, as long as the review itself explains why I came to the conclusion that I did, which I attempted to do in the review.
Yep.
And you probably would know that if you read the review instead of Controlled F for negative words. So anyway, that's my fan mail.
For negative words, has the AI taken over?
I think we can do that. I think we have the technology.
Microsoft, Clippy, find me negative.
Find me bad. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did read the review and then they intentionally edited around the good stuff and pulled out negative soundings.
That's a funny last one, because I'm waiting for people to start combining your Hogwarts score with your Lightfall score.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to read this last one that we have here.
Oh, is there another one?
Yeah, there's one.
Okay. This one says, sorry, this dude gave the anti-Semitism wizard simulator game a 9. Absolutely unserious. This comes from Media Tar Updates, at Glamslam something. Yeah, I would take issue with it being an anti-Semitism simulator. I don't know if the writer knows this, but I am a Jewish man, and while I have always found the goblins that run banks in Harry Potter to be a bit problematic, that is not really what the game's about. J.K. Rowling is not in the game, actually. It's not J.K. Rowling simulator, and there's also not really anything to indicate anti-Semitism in the game. So, yeah, I would say this is a pretty. I would give your straw man a 9 out of 10. You did a very good job creating a straw man for me. So, thank you. Thank you for that.
Good stuff. So you've got some high-profile coverage and reviews coming that we know of this year. So we'll be sure to kind of keep this segment going in the future. But that's going to be a good one. Dan, thank you for the recommendation.
I'm just overjoyed.
So
yeah,
where are you
actually?
Coming out
honestly, Dan, I am amazed that you didn't include some more of these, because I looked at that Destiny.
I was trying to make it.
Some of them were real mean, and you kind of softballed it. So I'm gonna say
I was trying. I didn't want to come on here and just because some of them are just lazy. Like when they're like, "Hey, Travis, F you," you know. I mean, that's just not even.
There were. I think you went. You went soft on me, and
all right. Point taken. We'll work harder next time.
That's no problem.
There's a lot of content for you to work with. I could make my DMs available to you guys. That's where the real heat comes in. That's that gets personal. So, yeah.
So just to wrap us up on Destiny 2, summarize. Give us a 60-second summary of where you're at with the game at this point in time.
So at this point in time, I've basically done everything you can do in Lightfall right now. I worked my way through all the different quests and stuff like that, and I'm waiting for the raid, and obviously there's going to be stuff coming out every week for the rest of the season. And my overall impressions is the reason I'm at a 5 right now, or when I wrote my review in progress, I said, probably a 5, is I would describe Lightfall as extremely mediocre. It is a mediocre game. Actually, the campaign is actively bad. It is a bad campaign, straight up. It has a extremely weak story, full of anticlimactic decisions and introducing of new characters that are themselves extremely weak. One of the new characters basically just, stares at the camera and says, "Oh, it's my last day on the job before retirement," before, later, I wonder what happens to him. I wonder what the character goes through during the campaign, so the story is just incredibly disappointing. And then beyond that, they introduced a new zone in the Neptunian city of Neomuna.
Yes, the saddest, the grayest mall pavilion you've ever seen.
To me, it looks like a corporate park, Hoeg, which is I wrote in my review.
I've been calling it an Epcot pavilion.
Yeah, it kind of just look. Yeah, Epcot Pavilion is very good description. The new destination is very bland and sad, and which is really unfortunate because the idea of having a giant skyscraper city with like lots of verticality is pretty interesting to me, and it doesn't really accomplish any of that. That's really unfortunate. And then just I mean, I that's without going into the stuff which I didn't write about in my review in progress yet, but it's definitely going to be there in the final version, which is no new, there's one new strike added to the playlist. There's no new Crucible maps as of now. They, didn't add any game modes. They didn't add any Gambit maps. They made no changes to that sandbox. Just the amount of things that they left rotting on the vine for this game and then added as little as possible. To me, it reeks of, they, a couple years ago, maybe it was just 1 year ago, they announced that Lightfall was no longer going to be the last year of Destiny, and they added a new expansion, the Final Shape, that was going to be the last one. It is pretty clear to me that they took all the content they'd been working on and they pushed it a year. It was effectively a delay, and they had someone work on this to hold people over for another year because they needed to buy time. And it plays very much like that. From the story redirecting you to a side quest that seemingly has nothing with the main conflict, to the fact that the world seems empty and the characters seem poorly thought out and the lore has a bunch of gaps. And I mean, go down the list. I am a Destiny diehard. Ride or die with this game, dude. I've been here for good. I've been here for bad. And my role in this community is to be critical when it's warranted. And I'm really sad to report, it brings me no joy to say that my worries about the game, when I saw the first trailer up until the preview, up until the review, my worries about the game were well founded. That I was unfortunately spot on about the fact that this seemed like a side quest that should not have been named Lightfall. For one, light does not fall in it from what we can tell. I'm devastated by this because The Witch Queen was, in my opinion, the height of Destiny. They finally told a good story in Destiny, and they, I was filled with optimism about the future of the franchise at that point, and I think that they have completely killed any momentum they had and taken the wind out of the sails going into the finale. And I'm super worried about the next year of Destiny because I want this game to do well, and I don't know how it's gonna, be okay for another year with the player base that I'm assuming it'll have in a couple weeks. So obviously I still have more to play. The raid comes out on March 10. The raids are almost always bangers. So I'm really hoping that that'll, work. But I'm so disappointed in this thing, man.
You can hear it in your voice.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like games, and I like this game. I put so many hours into it. There's nothing I would like more than to have my decision to spend a ton of my time with this game vindicated. But this is anything but that, and it brings me no joy to report that. So I understand some people think it should be higher. Some people think there should be lower. I have gotten equally voices from either side. But there's also been people that say, hey, I agree with you, man. 5 out of 10 is probably spot on. So I don't know what my final review will be. I have hope that the game will get better, but this ain't it, man. Lightfall is a huge disappointment. There's no way around that. And even the people who say, oh, well, it's not as good as Witch Queen, maybe a 7, even they agree that it's disappointing, right? Like, yeah, you'll be hard pressed to find somebody who goes, yes, that this met my expectations or exceeded it. I don't think anybody's saying that.
It doesn't appear to be remotely within the Witch Queen's league.
Not even close.
No. Yeah, and I know the guys who play Destiny at SG, we were talking the other day, there's about 3 or 4 hardcore Destiny players. Eric's in the chat right now, actually, Game Positive, have been saying that there's some redeeming qualities here, but it's definitely not great. And the campaign, I've had a few people reach out to me, including Sarko, who I talk to all the time, who super chats a lot, saying this was bad, actively bad.
Yeah,
I'm only watching. I'm just surprised at how dull it seems.
Yeah, the campaign I would say is actively bad. The reason I didn't give it a 4 is because some of the other stuff after the campaign is a little better. And just in general, like the destination isn't inspired, but I wouldn't say it's like bad. It's mediocre. I mean, to me, the word mediocre really describes Lightfall. It really does, at least so far.
My son is a huge Destiny player, and he said, yeah, he's pretty much right on as far as his criticisms. And then He said it's so bad that he said you can buy like an advance on like some of your classes to like just get you to that point. He's like, yeah,
You
I
can
did
pay
my one.
$20 to skip the campaign, so you don't have.
Yeah,
to
he's
play
doing
it.
that because he's got one of each of the characters, and so he bought 2 of them. He's like, I'm not going back and doing that again.
He paid $40 to not play the video game he bought. That is so sad to me.
Yeah, he played through with his warlock, I think, and then.
I am
no, I'm not doing
very baffled
twice more.
That we are at an age in the industry where there's a game where you buy an expansion and then pay extra money to not play it. That doesn't even seem to make sense.
Bungie, man, they know what they're doing. Yeah. This is like definition of how you do live service right here.
It's unbelievable, Ains. And, they've done that in the past to get through some of the grind. But in this case, the grind is basically just an 8-hour campaign. There's not a whole lot else you have to do to get to the power level that they boost you to. I think it's like 1780 is where they get you to. And so you are literally just paying to not play the main story of the campaign, which I get it. Like, you don't want to do it 3 times, but it is depressing, dude. It is super depressing to me.
You know what I think they should do? They need to disband Bungie and move to a new engine. That'll solve everything.
Yep.
Disband Bungie?
I think he's reading some kind of weird internet stuff.
Halo joke. Halo joke.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Disband the studio and move to a new engine. I heard it fixes everything.
For sure.
Well, Bungie is under new management.
Yeah.
This is true. It's true. Well, okay. We'll end our Destiny 2 on that. Obviously, you'll report back once we get the raid, which comes out this week. So
it comes out on Friday, so I don't know if I'll have beaten it by the time we do this show.
Sure.
And my review certainly won't be live, but my review will be live sometime after Monday the 13th, I think it is.
Yes.
Sitting on Mario Day. I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems
sometime
like
after that.
And of course, I'll be talking about Halo, funny enough, season 3, because that starts Tuesday. So we'll talk about that next week as well. Pumped about that.
Good, Halo. It's nice.
Yeah. So Hoeg, let's jump over. We're going to jump our topics around here and talk a little bit about the Xbox-Activision, the latest, because I know you came back, you did your first video, like we said at the top here. And there's, kind of a bunch of other things happening within the space here. And your video was about 30 minutes long. You covered a lot. So obviously, can you give us the gist that you're always good at doing of where this is at this point in time and the most recent kind of filings that have an impact on the acquisition itself, I guess I should say.
Sure. So the last time I did one of these, I think we knew that the Federal Trade Commission had moved to block the deal. That's continuing. Their hearing to have their claim that it should be blocked evaluated would be later this year, a lot later this year. So we're in what we would consider like pre-trial motions.
Okay.
Even though this isn't a trial, it's an administrative law proceeding. It's got the same kind of concepts. What is discovery? How do I get documents? Or how do I make people give me testimony? And so Microsoft had said, look, if you're going to try to block this because we're going to blow up the world of video games, we need to see inside Sony's internal documents because they've been doing exclusive deals for forever. And they asked for 45 different categories of documents in a subpoena. Sony says, no, we're not a party to this. We maybe asked the Federal Trade Commission to block you, but that's not a big deal. So we don't want to give you any of this documentation. And when they told the administrative law judge who's looking at this on behalf of the FTC that they didn't want to give over the documents, that judge had to make a determination, a pre-trial kind of determination. And so the most recent thing that happened this week is the judge said, Sony, you got to turn over most of this stuff. Now, Microsoft had asked for a number of documents going back 10 years, and the judge shortened that to 4 to the start of 2019 because we're looking at a forward-looking merger. But for the most part, Sony lost almost everything it tried to combat. It complained about the custodians. It complained about the type of information that was requested. And then the judge said, no, all of this is pertinent to whether Microsoft should be allowed to buy Activision. So Sony, you're going to have to turn over these documents. And a lot of people ask me, does that mean we're all going to get to see exactly how Sony does its deals? The answer is almost certainly no. So in the legal process, you might see what we've seen in other documents from other regulators where you get a range. Like if you imagine, you're going to get this percent of our sales of this game. It'll be 5 to 15 instead of saying 8 or whatever. You might get stuff like that, but it'll be primarily under seal. But the video I did was Sony may be regretting its life choices really, really soon, because just having those documents out in space is not great for them. Microsoft won't be the ones that leak it because they're not crazy, but these things have a tendency to get out. And so Sony is building a case for finding an antitrust complaint against it over the last 6 months, because they keep arguing for things like it's a 2-person market. And eventually this is going to bite Sony in the butt, in my opinion. But right now, all that's happened is that they're going to have to deliver really sensitive documents about the business transactions they're making to run their company to their chief competitor in Microsoft, who at the same time is negotiating for deals to keep things off of PlayStation through Game Pass and elsewise. So that's the first thing that's going to happen in this entire thing, is that Microsoft is just going to have a lot more information about exactly what Sony's doing instead of broad-based information about kind of what Sony's doing. And Sony, to their credit, to their detriment, however you want to frame this, got smacked by this judge in a couple of places where they claimed that there was no probative value to the licenses they entered into, that there was no use in handing them over. And the judge was like, "Are you crazy?" And other things of that nature that Sony just said, "Well, we don't have to turn over these documents because they're in Japanese." And the judge said, "Well, you can figure that out, Sony. You're Sony. What is the deal?" They tried to say, "Well, we can't turn over our licensing agreements because we don't classify them properly in our own system, so it'd be really hard." And as I said in my own video, it's like, well, yeah, that's fine. That's true. We don't want unduly burdensome subpoena requests, but we also don't want you to get out as a corporation, a multinational corporation that gets sued a lot. We don't want you to get out of discovery requests by keeping really poor records.
Right.
So if it takes longer for you now, maybe sort them as you go. I don't know. But the judge said, we're pretty sure you can find, presumably, what you've licensed into your economic system. So if you've licensed content for your game console, presumably you know what companies you've entered into that arrangement with. But Sony tried to get out of it. The judge said, no, you can't get out of it. And now Sony owes a lot of sensitive materials to Microsoft. And again, Sony's the only real vocal party that has tried to block this deal. So I think some corners of the internet are looking at it as being hoisted on their own petard.
Gotcha. How the turntables have turned.
It is so funny. What's funny is that I think as soon as they got involved in this, we were still on this show together, Hoeg, and we were all like, this seems like this is not going to go well for Sony in a number of reasons. Why are they involving themselves? And it's just funny to see it happen and Sony be, shocked Pikachu face. It's like, yo, you guys set this in motion a long time ago and should have seen this coming, frankly. And maybe they did. Maybe they're just playing, dumb. But it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Is
but this could easily go bad for them.
That's what I was going to say, Hoeg. It feels like, and again, coming from an outsider perspective who doesn't follow this kind of stuff, right? It just feels like we talked before about Microsoft, of all companies, is no stranger to these types of things, and they are extremely well prepared, going into this. It feels like, almost like Microsoft knows exactly what they're doing here, and they're basically turning the screws back. Do you think Sony's gotten themselves a little in over? I mean, it's kind of sounding like they've gotten themselves in over their head, and this could be problematic in the future.
None of this should be a surprise for Sony. I mean, these are all calculations that should have happened when they were deciding how vocal they were going to be.
Sure.
So
Yep.
I don't see it as this kind of like turntables, as you say, situation, because that all should have been evaluated at the time. I was surprised.
You're saying that they probably calculated this risk and
yeah, I mean, the very first thing you do in this circumstance is say, all right, I'm going to need a lot of docs from Sony. I mean, like, that's Microsoft doing that first is no surprise to anybody, I don't think. So I think in answer to your question, Sony shouldn't be surprised by this, but we can't guess. It's all people making decisions. So it's possible they didn't properly calculate out this kind of thing, or they thought that they could quash it, they could kill it, and the judge would let it die. Because one of the things that the legal system tries to do is not impose costs on non-parties if they're unwarranted. But once the judge says in the first paragraph or two of his order that it's clear that the Sony documents would be pertinent to Microsoft's defense, then Sony's going to lose all over the place. And then you
Is
also,
it possible, Hoeg? I imagine it is, that Sony did calculate this risk and also calculated that they would probably lose the fight to say it isn't pertinent and thought it was worth the risk anyway to still try to block the deal, and were maybe okay with, or at least thought it was a reasonable necessary kind of sacrifice to reveal some of their documents if it meant that they had a chance to help block it.
I think so. If we assume that they're not irrational or insane, then when they're deciding to put out there in December that if this deal is allowed to go through, we can't compete in the market, which is where I, lit the alarm fire, was, well, they really escalated from this is bad, we don't like it, to we can't survive if you allow this deal. Once that happened, at that point, you have to know you're going to be essentially a non-party party to any proceedings that go from there. And so Sony had to have evaluated it at that point.
Gotcha. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, or have you comment on, I should say, that I took away from your video, because as you can imagine, as you know better than I do, there's a lot of speculation and just commentary across social media around what's actually happening here. A lot of it probably wrong. But I've seen a lot of people say the CMA and the EU are basically getting moved in the direction, or they're starting to move in the direction of approving the deal, and that the deals that Microsoft, the licensing deals that they made, have eased some concerns there, blah, blah, blah. So that means that the FTC is going to do the same. And what I took away from your video, if I've got this right, and just want to make sure you can comment on it, is that at the end of the day, nothing the EU or the CMA do has a direct effect on the FTC.
It won't mandate anything, no.
Yeah, it's just people making decisions, and we can't speak to whether the people at the FTC will change their viewpoint based on anything else. But there's no direct impact whatsoever between what the EU and CMA do versus what the FTC is going to do.
No, and the FTC is having trouble. I mean, I don't think we should ignore that, both politically and effectively, which is to say, one of the other things I've referenced in this space is the FTC tried to block Facebook's acquisition of the VR company called Within. And I said that's a bellwether, because that's some crazy theorizing that they tried to do to get that one blocked. And they got absolutely slapped in their faces while I was having a little medical circumstance. But if I do another video in the near future, it's probably going to be, we need to read the Within decision because the FTC was told in no uncertain terms that this is crazy.
Yeah.
So don't do this. And the FTC is going to be reflecting, we would hope, on the choices that they made, because they've lost a number of high profile kind of adjudicative actions in the last year. But that doesn't mean that this is the breaking point and they switch directions now. They might switch directions later. They might never switch directions. These are political bodies.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think they'll switch directions at all. I think at this point it's really more about appearing to fight it. Rather, the victory doesn't really matter as much to them. And I think they know that their case in this one is just as weak as Within or any number of acquisitions that they've done. And weirdly, there's mergers all the time that probably should be blocked, but I think they're just picking the really weak battles. I'm very surprised by the ones they're choosing.
Yeah, they clearly have a bugaboo about technology in general.
How about the internet providers? Huh? ISPs, guys? You want to do something about that? That one is a real big problem you could solve right now. And it also is shady under current law, not
those are statutory monopolies, Travis. You got to go to the foundations to hit those.
Long sigh. Well, to sum this one up then, Hoeg, at the end of your video, you said this is very, very likely. You still believe it's going to go through at the end of the day with some sort of concessions, but we are still potentially several months from that this will carry on.
You're seeing those concessions now, essentially, with those licenses and everything else. Microsoft's been broadcasting to the world what they're willing to do for a year. And now the EU, by rumor in Reuters, has taken them up on it. That's no surprise. Microsoft knows what it's doing. They have some very smart kind of regulatory lobbying strategies. But, it's not going to be months until we know about the CMA and the EU, and then it's going to be longer until we know whether the FTC decides to pursue this all the way through their hearing date or not. I think this is a sure loser for the FTC, but I've thought that from the start.
Yeah.
You're right.
All right. So we get to carry on with this nonsense for a while yet.
That's the
And all
worst
the
part.
fanboy fight.
God,
Yeah.
just let them buy it. Shut up. Who cares?
Well, I love the EU
I'm gonna-
quotes that were coming out, which is like, we can't rush to judgment. I'm like, they announced it in January of 2022, folks. I mean, I get it, speed of government, but like, don't pretend you're rushing to judgment now, European Union.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, as always, Hoeg, you, in my opinion, you give kind of the best insight and break these things down in a digestible way. So I appreciate it. I'm sure our viewers and listeners appreciate it as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you for watching the video. Yeah, I'm getting there. We're not going to be on a regular schedule anytime soon, but I'm going to keep putting up things from time to time.
Excellent. Let's get caught up on Super Chats real quick. And I want to shout out real quick Jose Rivera, who is one of our regulars and really appreciates Travis, by the way. Travis, he gives you compliments all the time.
Really?
Yes, absolutely.
That's so weird. Oh.
That is weird.
He did 2 Super Chats at $9.99 each, but with the message was retracted. So I told him, I said, if you meant to type something there, put it in the chat, and I'll certainly read it without you super chatting again. But he hasn't. He just said he likes the idea of a Travis Smug mug as merch. So we may have to create some smug Travis. Yeah, Travis the Smug.
I mean, I have to be on these shows with your smug mug every time.
True. And you don't even get paid for it. You just, have to do it.
You know what? So. You know what, Hoeg? I don't mean this as an insult, really, but I think we have some kinship in our smug kind of. We're smug brothers. I view us as smug brothers. We both have kind of like a shit-eating grin on our face at most of the time.
I have a smirk a lot of the time, which is greatly helped by only having full operational control over half my face.
I was gonna say your smirk is more exaggerated now because you always had one, but now it's like it's really defined. So I feel like you leveled up, like you went Super Saiyan on being smug, and I will forever be trying to catch up with you.
I don't recommend my method, Travis.
There's easier ways to be more smug, but you went all in, and I got to give you kudos for that.
By the way, co-counsel says the smirk is super cute. There you go.
It is. It is. Yeah. you wear it better than me. Me, it looks like the reason people hate San Francisco elites, and for you, it looks it's kind of
you want to hug Hoeg. You just want to punch Travis in the face. I get it.
Yeah, for sure. I get that a lot.
Thank you, Jose. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the super chats. Amazing meta. You can take these, Dan.
Yeah, $10 super chat for Travis's therapy. After this episode and his unique take on emojis, I'm pretty sure he needs a soft couch and a kind ear.
I really appreciate.
I can provide neither of those.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your concern about me. I've never really been a therapy guy, and also don't really need help in that regard. I just don't have emotions. I'm not a very emotional guy. I'm a sociopath. I'm sorry. It's just part of my chemical buildup. But yeah, I'm fine. I'm chilling. I'm cool, man.
And with that, that's a perfect segue. Thank you, Meta. To Eric super chat.
Yeah, Travis needs a 80s action movie training montage. Yeah.
I believe he's referring to an in-game cutscene in Destiny Lightfall, wherein there's an 80s training montage, and they do it to skip over the fact that so much of what they have you doing in that game is boring. So they make a cutscene where you're training up, and it's got that moment where at first you're like, "Oh man, I'm so bad at this," and then he goes, "Keep trying," and then look, he's a master by the end. So embarrassing. It's probably the worst cutscene they've ever put into Destiny.
Travis is the best around.
The best.
Thanks.
All right. Yes, I have heard from multiple people that the cutscene was so bad that it kind of ruined their total interpretation of Lightfall, and I actually want to see it because I want to understand how a cutscene can be that bad.
Yeah,
it's funny is the early trailers all suggested it had this whole 80s vibe, and I'm not getting much of that off of Lightfall, so maybe that was a late addition to try to give it more of it.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe. Thank you, Eric.
Not changed the entire movie after people like the trailers.
All right, here we go. Proto topics. $10 super chat. All this talk of Activision and Microsoft. when are we going to get a Hello Kitty Island adventure sequel?
Asking the real
Whenever
questions.
we do, Travis will be reviewing it for IGN, probably. That's what I'm guessing. So,
Probably. We'll see.
Yeah.
No, they're going to want to give that a 10. Travis isn't going to be near that.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, you
if
think
it's
Destiny
good,
fans are crazy.
depends how good it is. If I'll get it.
Yeah.
Although I will say, my next review, or I don't know if it's my next review, but it's one of my upcoming reviews, is Diablo 4. So
Yeah.
we're doing pretty well out here. I'm stoked that I get to review that.
I don't know.
game.
That tells me more about Diablo 4 than it tells me about you.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they know something I
Oh,
don't.
don't do
I
that
guess,
to me. Yeah,
Oh,
I should have
man.
been. As soon as I heard that, I should have been worried. That's
You
a good
should have
point,
been.
Hoeg.
Good point.
Damn it. All right.
All right. Nicholas Starro, Union Rep Labor Law with, what do we decide this was?
Swedish krona.
Krona, okay. If EU agrees to the deal and the FTC does not, then the transatlantic trade agreement might come into place, but I don't know if FTC obeys under TATA.
I think the working assumption, Nicholas, should be that the United States enters into treaties and agreements that it doesn't intend to fully honor anyway. So it's possible you could get into a treaty that could be violated or otherwise cause a problem for not agreeing on merger terms and things like that. But for the most part, our executive bodies are going to operate independently, and then politics might have them change for reasons that you suggest, like this one.
Interesting. You partially lost me, but I appreciate the insight. Tata.
That's like Tata.
Heard. Yeah, Tata. Thank you, Nicholas. Appreciate you.
Oh, geez. Squid letters. $5 Canadian. Read the Smugs. Hoeg equals Ted Lasso. Travis equals the Wolf of Wall Street. Emojis.
You got emojis there, Travis. You get the work.
Laughing vigorously, then the tears come from continued laughing, and then they flow more freely as laughter continues. It's a story.
Yeah, good to see you, Hoeg.
It's good letters. Thank you very much.
And Asante with the $5 super chat. So great to have Hoeg back. Quick question: if Sony signs the 10-year deal, do the document requests go away? Love the show, and I, for one, love Travis. Emojis.
No, that time has passed. Sony had a valid subpoena that it attempted to quash. That quash was denied, and so Sony is now under penalty mandated to deliver those documents. Subpoena, by the way, is Latin for under penalty.
Clapping and a smirk to, I believe, a smug smirk to
Smug smirk.
Yeah, that's a good one. That, by the way, that's my favorite emoji. That one right there. It's got so many uses. It's got like the, I just said something sassy. It's got the I'm maybe flirting with you. It's just so multifaceted.
I know something you don't.
Yeah, I know something you don't. It's got just a lot of just it's so versatile. It's also my rest. It's also just my resting face. So I have an affinity for it.
Yeah, Asante, thank you, brother. Good to see you. There was something. Oh, Ted Lasso, season 3. I'm ready, guys. I'm so
It
excited.
comes out in like a week, right?
Yeah, next week.
Is it really?
Next Friday.
Man,
Yeah.
super pumped. Let's go.
Yep.
It's the best show on TV. I'm just gonna say it.
Tuesday,
I'm not sure
Friday, Wednesday.
how they pulled off. It's just so fun to watch. Like it makes you feel good.
Yep.
Like no other TV show does that for me. Like you don't watch. I watch. You remember the Consultant? Somebody said something about it last week in our chat, and I watched that on Amazon Prime. It's really weird. So whoever suggested that, thank you for the nightmares.
That was Googleman.
Yeah, Googleman. Yeah, that tells me a lot about Googleman because that was some strange stuff. But yeah, go watch it if you like strange, slightly
I do.
horror,
I will
dark
be watching
comedy kind of horror-ish thing. I don't know.
I bet you like
weird.
Strange, Ains, smirking face.
Wow.
See,
All
I
right.
used it
Thank
for
you,
one of
everyone.
One of its uses there.
You did. All right. So the last thing I want to mention is Elden Ring. Boys, I'm glad Hoeg's here to celebrate in the Elden Ring continued ongoing love a year later. That From Software came out this week with a single image and a single tweet saying, yes, expansion is coming, titled Shadow of the Erd Tree. And if you're not aware or don't follow that community, that single tweet has nearly 400,000 likes, and countless videos have been made theorizing everything in that single image that was shared, because From has a very they are very good at teasing things that have a lot more depth than you would initially realize if you don't follow these things closely. So that single image touched on like several huge potential story elements from Elden Ring. So I've watched like 2.5 hours of speculative videos on what that single image could mean for the expansion.
I'm betting it means more Elden Ring.
It does, which is already glorious. So super excited about it. No date, no details, no nothing. Just it's coming. And we already knew it was coming because From Software told us they were working on expansion. So just good to have a single picture, I guess. But hopefully it comes this year. And a title. This is true.
I thought the whole game
it's good.
was in Shadow of the Erd Tree, so
yes.
that tree never leaves.
No, and there's like I said, there's a lot in that image that could. There's some things that look like it could be a prequel potentially, like take place before the game. There's others that speculate it could be after. But regardless, it's going to be probably another big year. We know how big Elden Ring was last year, goes without saying. And if they release that this year, along with, let's not forget, they have Armored Core coming back this year, Fires of the Rubicon, which is starting to pop up for pre-order at retail sites. Now, of course, that doesn't mean it's imminent, but if they release both of those this year, it could be another huge year for From Software as a studio. So, all right, boys, I think that's going to wrap us up for today. We're coming in a little shorter today.
Love it.
Yeah, but Hoeg, I am very glad you were able to join us. Thank you for hanging out. Good to see you back on your channel officially with your video. Good to see you here. Like I said earlier, as much as I love doing the show, no matter what, it just feels right when it's the four of us. It feels like balance has been restored to the universe.
Yeah, and I straight up don't like doing the show without you. So I'll go a step further than Nance.
I will be very excited when I get to use this again. You know, I'm pumped about the first return battle, as you will. But yeah. All right, guys. Hoeg, you wanna close out on your end?
Sure. Well, I am on the internet on occasion now, but I still am doing a lot of therapy, and I definitely can't do work or anything else on therapy days. They knock me out. But I'm intending to do infrequent guest spots on places here like the Bitcast. You might see me elsewhere, and occasional videos on the channel. And we'll be working to get back up to speed while also not making my therapist crazy or otherwise going backwards instead of forwards. So you'll see me out and about a little bit more. But for those of you that are worried about me going too fast, I'm trying to take it easy and listen to everybody and listen to how I feel. And you probably won't see me a ton on 2-hour videos because I'm already going to have to stretch and do some stuff after this. I know that. So I'll be around. I'm very happy to not be dead. So I'll try to make good use of the time that is given to me, as Gandalf would tell me. But
you have a lot of Gandalf inspiration these days. This is an interesting feature about you now. I love it.
Well, one of the things, you get sheets for discharge and things like that. When you're let out of the hospital, one of the really interesting things that they give you is you just had a stroke. One of the most common post-stroke things that happens in the first couple of months is high levels of emotionality that you might not be expecting and things like that, which I'm not an emotional guy. I'm a little bit more like you, Travis, very analytical. My wife used to joke about me having a robot heart. But like
Beyonce does the same.
Not only do you get perspective from having a near-death experience, it's also like what happened to you is also creating extra emotions. So yeah, a lot of Gandalf, a lot of other things that I've reflected on a lot, and that'll continue to be the case, I think. But,
so you're the Tin Man.
Well, no, I have X-rays and MRIs to prove it.
I don't know.
But I act that way a lot, and so
fair enough.
Yeah, sometimes a little bit more emotional. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be having these conversations. I knew as soon as I saw you were doing Final Fantasy 16 that I was going to pop on. But it's cool to do these things. I like having these conversations. I like being on my channel and doing videos, hopefully adding to the overall understanding of people. It's always been the goal. And yeah, it was really hard for like 6-8 weeks to watch things happen with the deal or otherwise in the industry and be like, oh my God, no. However, anybody was describing something and maybe getting on Twitter, maybe not, because I didn't have the appetite for a Twitter fight on this stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to go through this and try to be who I was, but also take the situation and incorporate it. You know, it happened. It's part of my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And still do all the things I need to do in rehab and elsewhere. So I appreciate you guys letting me on. And Ains never stopped sending me links, folks. I don't think he missed a week.
Well, they're always there for you whenever you want to.
Somewhere I could link in from the ICU. So those would be.
I like new Hoeg. I liked old Hoeg as well. But, you know, I hope you get your fighting appetite back at the very least so that I can give you a feast.
Oh, I'm always happy to fight you, Travis. I
Cool.
can fight you that.
Cool. Hashtag fight 1v1 me, bro. Okay, great.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't reference it, but I almost did when we were talking about Final Fantasy 16, that this was, you know, very Last Jedi of them. Just that we need to approach more people.
He's gonna have to break out Last
So
Jedi in the
wrong.
outro.
That's so wrong. All right. Well,
Look,
anyway,
if I say Last Jedi and you say that's so wrong, I'm all in for you, Travis. But yeah,
I'm going to be nice to you because you just had a medical incident, as you like to put it, medical incident. But I hate you. So there you go.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the day when people are not kid glovesing around me. You know, like, I don't need special treatment, Travis. You can yell at me.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind next week.
I told you last night it was the only thing that knocked my blood pressure monitor off in the hospital.
Yeah, you did tell me that. You did tell me that. I like to think it just made you feel alive, as all good movies should. Great. So yeah.
Go, Travis.
All right. So I've got a bunch of stuff coming out next week. On Tuesday, I will be announcing IGN First for March. I'm producing it. I spent a week with the game developers playing their game and capturing footage and conducting interviews with the people making that game. And I'm really excited to tell you all what it is and share what I can share. It'll be a slow content rollout. Slow meaning I'm going to do like 2 different posts a week about different stuff. And then by the end of the month, I'll be able to fully open the kimono, as it were, and let you guys know everything I saw and played. Other than that, I've got the Destiny 2 Lightfall review that will be fully fleshed out at some point. Not this week, but the week after, once the raid has been conquered by yours truly.
You're going to be world first, Travis?
Yeah, I'm going to be a solo flawless world first, actually.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm going to beat the raid by myself without dying and do it before anybody else. That's the
okay.
Do that and then give it a 2 on IGN.
Yeah, for sure. And then it brings it down. I'm like, I was able to do it myself. Honestly, if I'm able to solo flawless world first that raid, it probably does suck. On day one. Let's see. Yeah, I probably won't be first. So I'm hoping that I can beat it. So for those of you that don't know, the Friday and Saturday it comes out, it has something called contest mode activated where it is more difficult. And so I have beat my head against the wall in the past and sometimes beaten it on the day of and then been able to write my review more quickly, or not succeeded and then had to wait until they brought it back to the regular difficulty and then beat it and write my review. So if I'm not able to conquer it on Friday or Saturday, I'll beat it on Sunday and then hopefully have the review up sometime in the early part of the week. But we'll see. Either way, I'm sorry to report, Destiny fans, that it's so far is not great. And I will continue to be honest about my feelings about Destiny. For those of you who think I'm a Destiny simp, I guess here's proof that I'm not. And for those of you who think that I just hate Destiny, I encourage you to look at my review of Destiny 2: The Witch Queen that I posted.
Logically, I have to point out that it's not proof of anything. It could be a natural 3. And you're still giving it a 5.
True. That's a good
very
point.
true.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, it
Very
could be
true.
worse than that. Although I think a lot of people would say that if I was a Destiny simp, I probably would have given the Witch Queen a higher than an 8. A lot of people were like, "That's not high enough," and I'm like, honestly, would you call Destiny amazing? Actually, are you amazed by it? I have a problem with the word descriptions of the numbers.
My feeling is that you're exactly right on Witch Queen and Lightfall from my brief interactions with both.
Thank you, Hoeg, and that really means a lot to me, and I hope other people feel the same way. But it brings
Witch
me no
Queen
joy.
feels like a different league.
It really does. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You know what?
Cool.
Just kill yourself. That's what.
Yeah, or that for sure.
Yeah, or that.
Thanks, man. Thanks for adding your voice to the chorus of kill yourself messages I received this week. So,
All right. Yeah. We'll go ahead and wrap up. If you are interested in Diablo 4, definitely check out the Season Gaming channel. I've got something on Anarius up on there. I'm going to have a lot more on PSVR2 coverage and titles this week. And I, too, will be doing coverage and review of Diablo as well. So Travis and I will hopefully be review buddies here, and you'll get to hear from both of us about
we
our
should also
experience.
play together if we can. That would be fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got to do that for sure.
If my character
So-
stops moving, it's because I fell asleep. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, guys.
I will
just...
boot you.
No.
And
I'm
lastly,
actually super excited about Diablo 4. It's gonna be fun.
lastly, we do have a special episode coming up of Bitcast. So stay tuned. We haven't announced what that is yet. Very soon. We're still coordinating it, but it could be a lot of fun. So hopefully that will go next week. And same time, same place. Hope you can join us. And we'll announce this week what's going on with that. So. All right, we're going to close out. I hope everyone has a good week. Thank you, as always, to all of you, your generosity, and just tuning in with us, hanging out with us, listening later. If you're on audio side, thank you so much. And we will see you same time, same place next week. Thank you.